Cool. All right. Hello, world. Pother team back at it. Tonight is myself, Najee Coach, and I with me, Najee Mitchell. I'm doing some catch-up beats. We are working on L5 stuff for you. So that is human design. So we are into the social alchemy section. And next up is, what are polar opposites? What are composition opposites?
Yep. Okay. So each mode design has a polar opposite, which is the other mode design that has the same four conscious powers, but in the exact reverse order. And each mode has a composition opposite, which is the other mode design that also has the same ranking of priorities, with a different power for each priority. So for the IG, I assume the composition opposite, would that be the Vise Z?
Correct.
Okay. That's what I figured. Okay. So basically, the polar opposite is the mojo that has the same four conscious powers as the mojo that you are, but in the exact reverse order.
Correct.
And then the composition. Sorry?
No, go ahead, please. No, go ahead, please.
Oh. I'm imagining things. And the composition opposite is the mojo that has the same priority order as the polar opposite mojo, but with the other four powers. The same, actually, in other words, the same four power that your unconscious powers are, and opposite priority ordering. So I guess that's it.
Yep. Is that for credit?
Yes, that was for credit.
Nice.
Is that what you were going to ask?
Yep. Here we go. So next up is we're getting the octets. What are the adaptive directive octets? Which mojo designs are directive and why? Which mojo designs are adaptive and why?
So the questions are, what 8 mojos are directive and why, and what 8 mojos are adaptive and why?
Actually, it's three. Those are the second two questions. The first question is, what are the adaptive directive octet? What is it?
Gotcha. So this is for credit, because I think I know this, can explain pretty easily. The directive adaptive octet are basically the 8 mojos, respectively, that share having the directive or adaptive energy field. And the directive octet is comprised of all the 8 directive mojos, so the Nai Shi Shi Nai, Nai Si Si Nai, Vi Ji Shi Vi, and Vi Zi Zi Fi, and those mojos all share having 2 directive powers as their momentum powers. And obviously for adaptives, Vi Zai, Zai Vi, Fi Shai, Shai Vi, Ni Shai, Shiny, and Ni Zai, Zai Ni, and they all have 2 adaptive powers as their momentum powers, so they have the adaptive energy field.
Good. All right, same thing now with objective subjective.
All right, objective subjective.
Sorry. Oh, so you actually aren't seeing these questions in the sidebar today?
Actually, I'm not.
Okay, so that,
because I don't know if I even can. Actually, I might be able to get them on my phone. Let me see if I looked for it. I might have them somewhere though. You probably sent them to me at some point. I would bet that you did.
Yeah.
Although I might have deleted it by now, because I still have the questions from like the Mojo reading chapter that you sent, even though I have hardly been there for that at all.
Well, this section at least is pretty mathematical, so maybe if you just know, it's the same thing again. Is what are the objective subjective octets, and which mojos are objective and why? Which mojo designs are subjective and why?
Let me see. Questions for Mojo reading. Questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's most of the time pretty obvious. Yeah. What the section's going to be about. All right. Anyway, we'll see if it becomes a problem. It's not yet.
Right.
So I assume this is the same thing. It's just what is objective, subjective, and then what are the 8 mojos and why?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So objective, subjective, just like the directive, adaptive. Directive are the 8 mojos that have the objective energy field. Subjective are the 8 mojos that have subjective energy field. And the 8 objective mojos are the Nijai, Nizai, Jinai, Sinai, Vijai, Vizai, Jivai, and Zivai, and they have an objective source power, and basically have an objective power as the top power, and they're 2 compounds, momentum and modulation compounds. And subjectives are the Naiji, Naizi, Sini, Shiny, Vaiji, Viz, Ziv, and Jiv, and they have subjective powers as their source power and just the top power, and they're 2 compounds.
Good. I got your card there. I sent an email with questions. Let me know if you get that.
Sure. Have not been checking. Didn't get it yet, which is weird.
So in the meantime, this next is pretty mathematical. So
yeah, I think all these next sections.
It's the same one with perception lead, discernment lead.
Yeah. All right. Perception lead, discernment lead. So, perception lead octet are the 8 mojos that have the perception lead energy field, and the 8 mojos in the discernment lead octet are the 8 mojos that have discernment lead energy field. And so the 8 perception lead mojos are the Naishi, Naisi, Nijai, Nizai, Vaiji, Vizi, Vijai, and Vizai. And they have a perception source power and polar power accordingly. And so that makes them perception lead and gives them that energy field. And then discernment lead, Zini, Jini, Shinai, Zinai, Ziv, Jiv, Shivai, Sivai. Those are the 8 discernment lead mojos, and they have discernment source power and polar power.
Good.
So that means
same thing with interpretive literal.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Interpretive are the 8 mojos. The interpretive octet are the 8 mojos that have the interpretive energy field, and the literal octet are the 8 mojos that have literal energy field. The interpretives are the Naiji, Naisi, Nijai, Nizai, Zinai, Jinai, Zini, Shiny, and they all have as their top perception power and interpretive power the interpretive one as opposed to the literal, which gives them the interpretive energy field. And then the literals accordingly are the Vaiji, Vici, Vijai, Vizai, Z, Vi, Shivai, Zivi, Shivi, and they have a literal perception power as their top perception.
Good. Next up is logic-based, bias-based.
Yeah, and I did get the questions actually.
Cool.
Yeah. Look at that. Pause here, Ben and Glenn. Look at that. All right. Logic and values. The 8 logic-based mojos, or logic-based octet are the 8 mojos that have a logic-based discernment as their top discernment, and the values-based octet are the 8 mojos that have 8 mojos that have a values-based discernment as their top discernment, giving them the values-based energy field. So the 8 logic-based, the logic-based octet consists of the Xini, Nizai, Xeni, Nizi, Xivi, Zivi, and the Vzi and Vizi. And those mojos have logic. I already explained that they already have a logic-based power as their top discernment of the two, as opposed to values-based. And the values-based mojos are Naiji, Jinai, Nijai, Jaini, Shivi, Jivi, Vaiji, and Vijai, and they have a values-based discernment as their top discernment, as opposed to the logic-based. Okay.
Got it. All right, next up is, what are the conscious perception power octets? What are the 4 different conscious perception power groups, and which mojos are in them?
Okay. I'm going to put these up side by side so I can see them both. Okay. So the conscious perception power octets are the 8 mojos that share having a kind of a conscious power axis of some kind. So like the 8 mojos say that use for perception specifically, I should say, that we're focusing on here. So there's like the Ni and V users, because they always go together, and there's 8 mojos that have those consciously, and then the Ni and Vi users. And we sometimes just call them Ni users, Vi users, because those actually imply the whole thing if you know the math. But for purposes of this, we can just call them Ni and Vi users. So the 8 mojos that comprise the Ni and Vi users are Nijai, Nizai, Xini, Shiny, Vaiji, Vizi, Jivi, Zivi. And they're in there because they have Ni and Vi consciously. The other mojos don't. Then the others, the Ni and V, are Naiji, Nizi, Jinai, Xenai, Vzi, Vijai, Xivi, Jivi.
Good.
That's it.
Yep. All right. Cruising here. Crush, crush, crush. All right. Same thing with discernment.
Yeah, so discernment is basically very similar to the last one, only we're talking about discernment powers. So there's the Jivi axis, so like the Jivi, or not, wait, Jizai, not Vi, Jizai, and the mojos that have those 2 powers consciously, which is 8 of them. And Zishai, the mojos that have those 2 powers consciously, are the other 8. So I
think say Ji Zai twice.
I meant Zijai. If I didn't
Gotcha.
say that, I might have just said it weird or something. I don't know. They sound kind of similar if you say it fast.
Yeah, they do.
So you really should enunciate, I guess. The emojis, the Jizai emojis are Naiji, Jinai, Zaini, Nizai, Zai-V, Vizai, Jivai, and Vaiji. Because they all have Zai or Ji consciously, because you can see one of them in the momentum name, and the other one is implied by the fact that they have that. Then the other 8 mojos automatically are the Nijai, Shiny, Vi-Z, Z. Oh wait, yeah, Vi-Z, Z-Vi, Z-Nai, Nai-Z, V-Shai, Shai-V.
And what do they have?
Z and Jai, consciously.
Got it. All right. Next up is basically you're just going to say what the Jez Hunters are, and then all the other duos of that variety.
Okay. We have a name for those?
No, I don't want to name that grouping yet. Not sure what to call it. I'm tinkering with.
I think you called them at one point. I saw something once. Same rules superpolar, which is a bit kind of
wordy
sounding, but
it's a bit wordy. So yeah, I'll keep thinking.
But that's one way of putting it, I think.
Gotcha.
Because that's basically what they do. They have the same priority, just and the same like middle powers, but
source is different. Yeah.
Source is different. You can call them like your. Because with what, like there was like the composition opposite or something.
Maybe this is like composition.
This is like composition
counterpart.
I don't know.
What do you think about
counterpart?
Composition counterpart. That sounds kind of cool.
No, and that one seems to show up a lot, like in stuff, like Naishi Vai-Z.
It does. It is.
Naishi Vai-Z you don't seem to really see as often.
What's that? Which was that?
I was just saying, like, I guess I'm only talking about my mojo in particular, so I guess I don't know how true that is for all of them, but it seems like that one, this one, like Jez Hunters, Jez Gatherers, shows up more often together than like composition opposites do. Like in relationships and stuff like that. Oh, well, I guess it's sort of the other way around too, like Naishi. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So composition counterpart. I guess it kind of does though. So that would be. Am I just listing basically what are each one of these?
Yeah, it's all for all of them.
There's 8 of them.
They're the same tandem power.
8 duos,
but different source.
So you have I'll start with mine. So Jez Hunters, and that's going to be basically the mojos that are hunters, but they're values based. So they have G, because we're directives. So we'd have the directive value space power as momentum. So Naishi and Vai-Shi. The Zez Hunters, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically the logic-based version of that, where they have Z, but they're hunters. So the Nai-Z and the Vai-Z. Then there would be the Nez pilots. So they're pilots, but they have the interpretive variety of that. So they have Nai and V, but they have both pilot powers. So G9 and Z9. And accordingly, the Vez pilots, Z-Vi and G-Vi, who have the Vi and the Ni, because of the directive literal power, but with all the pilot powers kind of spanning that. Then the towers are similar to that, the Nez towers and the Vez towers, because they're also the discernments. So they have the same So they have the Nez towers have the adaptive interpretive power. So they have Ni and Vi, but all the discernment. So they're the Ziny and the Shiny, and then the Vez pilots, or not pilots, the Vez towers, who have V and Ni, because they have the adaptive literal power. So the Zhai V and the Zai V. And then lastly, the Jez gatherers, the Nijai and the Vijai, who have Zhai, because they're the values-based version of gatherers, but they have all the gatherer powers in that group. And then lastly, the Zez gatherers, so the Nizai and the V Zai. And they have Zai and G. Zai is momentum.
Nice. All right. Next up, same thing, but now with this group where it's like sub-ROMs.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem with some of these groups is trying to name them as like wordy. Because like,
yeah,
one thing you could do is like, I've called them same storyline special club.
Right. That's
because that's what they are. But that's like,
yeah.
That's a bit long. That's because that's basically what they are. They're a cross section of two quartets.
Two quartets, yeah.
So probably better to have another name than that.
But I know what you mean. So I'll serve for now because it is technically accurate.
Yeah. All right. So basically, these groups, as I was just saying, are the groups that they're a combination of special clubs. So they have your same objective subjective energy field and your same interpretive literal energy field. But they're also in your storyline. So that means that they have the same. We already know that they have the same literal and interpretive for the last one, but they also actually have the same, in addition to those two, the same discernment field as well.
Discernment field? What do you mean?
Discernment, like logic or values based.
I got you. Mm-hmm. Correct.
In addition to interpretive and literal, which was already implied in the special club. In objective subjective. It adds that one other field, which kind of haps it from the 4 to 2. So that would be the sub-ROMs. So Naiji and Jaini share basically all energy fields except and discernment lead, perception lead. That's the case for all of these, basically. All of these mojas are going to they're going to share every energy field except directive, adaptive, and discernment lead, perception lead.
Correct.
They're going to be one or the other. Then there's the ob-ROMs, so the Shinai and the Nishai. And they'll also, all these groups will also span all 8 powers together. They're almost inspirational, but not quite. Right. The sub-serbs, Ziny, Nizi, ob-serbs, Zenai, Nizi, sub-sens, Faiji, Jai-Vi, and ob-sens, Ji-Vi, Vijai, sub-prax, Vi-Z, Zai-Vi, and ob-prax, Z-Vi, Vizai.
Good.
Some of those
what's that?
show up together more than others, but like some of them, not as much. At least to my knowledge.
Of course, also like I said, those are careers that we have media on. There's lots of careers that we don't. So
yes, that's what I'm wondering. Like if there are like things that like the ob-prax show up together. And
yeah.
There's certainly nothing I've seen, but we probably. I mean, I guess there's not really a lot of media we have on ob-prax. So.
You know what? On that, there may be one, but again, like I said, I don't have the data for this to go with it, other than just driving down the road. Construction crews outside, there does seem to be a good amount of ZI and VZI, so there may be something there. We need more data though. All right, so
those are the motors that are very good at like doing menial jobs.
Well, maybe menial in that case, but I think maybe also perhaps the ruckusness of it. Because, for example, like, NASCAR driving is not very, menial. It's pretty prestigious and exciting. But
yeah, I don't mean it that way. I don't mean it like an insult. I guess it's just that the things that I find exciting don't tend to.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, but right in that case, there is the menial aspect. To me, I think maybe the stronger one is the fact that at least when you're seeing them, you're kind of out physical all the time, your job. You know what I mean? So maybe that is.
Yeah, that would be really rough for me. So I'm glad that there are mojos that do that.
Okay, so anyway, next up is, what are personal storylines?
Probably not a good idea.
How does this relate to human evolution? In what context are personal storylines often used by popular practitioners?
Okay, so this one I might want to know the questions. So I have them here. Okay. What are personal storylines? How does this relate to human evolution? In what context are personal storylines often used? Okay, let me read it. Personal storylines refers to the heroic narrative that is naturally imbued into the human condition. Heroic narrative. As part of the inherited legacy of the human species, much of what it takes to be a heroic human that moves oneself and the rest of humanity forward is gifted to humans in their genetics, so they are able to do many of the things they need without the environment telling them when or how. Although obviously a supportive environment is also helpful in the discovery process. The framework of personal storylines is often seen and used in Pod Blair as a more artistic, character-driven, quest-focused way of working with the mojo phenomenon that merges synergistically with the other ways of working with it. Okay, that makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so personal storylines are like a heroic narrative that's intrinsically imbued into the human condition. And it relates to human evolution because these heroic narratives are kind of encoded in our genetics, I guess, in a sense, as near as we can determine. That allows humans to have this kind of intrinsic thing, this kind of intrinsic legacy that they're gifted from their kind of evolutionary path, so that the environment doesn't have to actually be right and tell them what to do. Although a supportive environment is helpful, obviously, in the discovery process of one's heroic narrative, but it's inside one, I guess. And then as far as Pod practitioners go, it's a kind of artistic, quest-driven, character-driven way that we look at our mojos, which merges with other more technical ways of looking at it.
Good. All right. Next up is, what is the human matrix? How does it relate to human evolution?
What was the last question?
The last question is, how does this relate to human evolution?
Did I answer that? Wait, for personal storylines?
No. It's for the next one.
Oh.
The human matrix.
Wait, did we skip 32 gender mojo designs?
What?
Did we skip 32 gender mojo designs?
Oh, hold up. Oh, thank you. What are
I was confused because I'm like reading the questions and I'm like, I don't see that as the last question.
No, I jumped on. Thank you. What are the 32 gender mojo designs? Why is it important to account for them?
Okay. Anyway, there are 32 gender mojos, as there are male and female variations. Each of the 16 basic mojo designs is necessary to account for gender when trying to understand a given person, because it intrinsically influences the personal storyline of their peak pathway, as well as the physiological cues they give off. Okay, so there are 32 gender mojo designs because, as we already have discussed, there's 16 mojos, but you can split that into a further category of the 2 genders for each one. So that leaves 32 gender mojos total, and it's important to account for them for gender and not just leave it out because gender heavily influences a person's storyline and storylines they're going to kind of come in contact to in their life and have innately in them, and also can even influence the physiological cues that they give off. So it's good to know those differences.
Good. All right, so now it's time for what is the human matrix? How does it relate to human evolution?
Okay. The human matrix refers to all of the seamlessly interweaving energetic relationships that are part of the human design of each individual and the social alchemy between all humans. This comes from humanity's shared inherited legacy of being members of a species that is comprised of a collective of specialists who've evolved to live and work together as a productively harmonious whole. Seamlessly interweaving energetic relationships that are part of human design. Even why I'm wearing this. Seamlessly interweaving energetic relationships. Okay. So the human matrix is basically this kind of web of seamlessly interweaving connections based on all of the similarities between the mojos, all the alchemies, and kind of all of their myriad cross sections. And this relates to human evolution because it shows how the kind of synergy between how humanity evolved as a species of collective specialists, while at the same time how all those collective specialists were all the different ways they were designed to work together for productive harmony.
Good. All right, last one here, and then you got this whole section. Bam. L5. All right, what is the 1024 to infinity lens? What are the key questions that create this lens? Why is the concept of infinity important in using this lens correctly?
This is the last one?
Yeah, because after that, it's the relationship beats, and we actually already did them in an area. So
you're right. These do look pretty familiar. Yeah, we did those. We did them twice, I think, actually.
Yeah,
in the
we're good on that.
So I think we're pretty good. Okay. Makes sense. Why hit it? All right. So anyway, the 1024 to infinity lens. Obviously, I know that term. And I always forget whether it's 1024 or 1028. I'm gonna do that math a lot. I don't know why. I don't know why 8 would make me think. Is a way to put all humans into a universal conceptual framework that identifies the most relevant descriptors for anyone and everyone in the unfolding of natural law. It is a way to objectively categorize humans that honors each individual for who they are. Wait, that's already what I said. There are many factors that change how people of even the same mojo design manifest a peak pathway. In order to begin to understand these factors, one must ask some key questions to elaborate on a person's mojo. What is this person's age? Is this person male or female? What is this person's sexual orientation? Is this person successfully living on their peak pathway? With just these 2 fundamental questions, the potential number of useful mojo categories opens up to 1024, which is an honorable starter lens for an understanding of the human matrix. However, there is potentially infinite number of possible facets, as some of these inquiries have components that could expand dramatically. 1024 is just the baseline number of facets for capturing a minimum degree of nuance and sophistication regarding the human condition, which is why this lens is probably called the 1024 to infinity lens. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So the questions were age, gender, sexual orientation, and then like flowing or not. Okay. I'm trying to think of how that, I guess, because you're 32 times 2 is 64 times 2 is 120. Wait, well, there's like age groups. Never mind. I guess there's no reason to add all that up.
No, but you're right. It basically is, the 32 is where you start, and then it's
and then how many age groups are there?
32 gender mojos.
Yeah.
And then you have you have 4 more binary questions, which is going to be times 2. So sexual orientation, for example, is going to make it 64. And then age groups, there is, I think.
I thought you had more than 2.
So that's why I was thinking
that one wasn't binary, because I don't think binary would add up to 1024. So I guess we can figure it out. So it would be hang on. So it'd be 64, 128, 256. With just the other 3. If you multiplied it by 2, it would be 512. So there'd have to be 4 age groups to go to 1024.
I did this math before. Let's see. So it's 32 gender mojos, then times.
It kind of makes sense to me, because you could do like kids, teenagers, adults, and like elderly. But really, of course, there's like this. The reason that it's infinite is that there's not 4 age groups. There's
right.
Infinite age groups. And infinite on a lot of these questions. Basically, like peak pathway.
So.
Anyways. So to answer the question, the 1024 to infinity lens is basically this kind of framework for trying to get the most relevant descriptions and the most inclusive descriptions possible to kind of categorize people and their qualia while honoring their individuality as best you can. And we consider like 1024 to be like kind of like a basic number that you can get by asking a few simple questions, such as the age group that the person's in, the gender of the wait, we already did that one. Oh wait, yeah, never mind. Yeah, gender, sexual orientation, and whether their peak pathway is flowing, or not. But obviously, the reason that infinity is important is because for all those questions, really, I guess, there's not really only 2 answers for them, or 4 answers, or whatever. Exactly. There's infinite sophistication. So, I mean, especially one as complex as like whether their peak pathway is flowing or not. I mean, there's like so many facets to that honestly, I think even just flowing or not is like,
it's very
not saying that much. Yeah.
No, it's a start, but you're right. Yeah,
it's a start. It's not saying nothing. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you should look at it's basically just kind of their overall energetic state, but it doesn't even begin to get into like why that is.
Exactly. Yeah. Lots of factors there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you, sir, are L5. Dun 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 dun. Boom. All right. So we still have some more time here, about a half an hour, a little less. So we can go ahead and get into the Mojo reading.
Okay. That'll be interesting. Because I know I've done a little Mojo reading.
I did note that here.
Oh, you know what I've done? Okay.
Yeah. So.
Because I know I missed this week. I missed this week entirely. So whatever you've done this week, I haven't done.
Yeah, but you missed the very beginning.
Yeah, I think I just finished the beginning. I think that's probably what it was.
What are physiological cues up to baseline eye qualia? So let's start the very beginning. You ready?
Yeah.
What are physiological cues? And do you have these questions?
I do have these questions. Let me pull them up though. Okay. I don't have them pulled up, but I have them. For sure, I saved them. Are you asking whether I've done them? Because I'm probably not going to remember. I mean,
No. I have that. Just if you have them to read from.
I do have them. Yeah. What are physiological cues? In what ways physiological cues manifest?
Yeah, exactly.
Add them all.
All right, cool. So start the first one. What are physiological cues?
Have I done that one?
No.
You asking me?
No, I'm saying let's start there.
Have I not done that?
No, you haven't.
So what have I done?
You did cunning eyes, started there, and you went down to perk up brow lift.
And where are you guys?
So there's that bit in the beginning that they did, and then there's there's carriage lift. From carriage lift down all the way to pullback is what they've done.
Pullback. The frick? Can't find that. Pull. Oh, there it is.
So it looks like there was three you missed. One in the beginning and then two back to back.
You guys are a pullback, and I stopped where?
No. Basically, there's been 4 sessions.
Okay.
And you did the second one, so we need to do the first, the third, and the fourth.
Okay. So where did the second one stop?
The second one starts on cunning eyes and ends on perk up brow lift.
Perk up brow lift. Okay, good. Got it. So I'm on. I know where. Okay. Fair enough.
We'll start the beginning of what are physiological cues.
Gotcha. Let me go find it. What are physiological cues? Oh, okay. Physiological cues are any physically observable motion, action, tensioning, or aesthetic quality, no matter how subtle or complex, that a person manifests with their physical body in any way. Okay. So physiological cues are basically any physically observable motion, tension, aesthetic quality, any kind of thing that you do that a person like physically manifests, which you can observe of any degree of subtlety or complexity. With them, yeah. Basically, that's it.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Kind of use that to start, and we'll start building on it. All right. In where is it?
10 primary areas.
Yes. In what ways do physiological cues manifest? How can this be broken down? What are the basic categories of this breakdown?
Okay. Physiological cues manifest in everything a person does. However, it is helpful to break the entirety of it down into more manageable categories based on areas of the human body that emanate cues in distinct ways. The 10 primary areas focused on in motor reading are the eye zone, cheek zone, mouth zone, voice, head, shoulders, gesturing, overall carriage, overall stance, posture, and the overall movement gait. Wow. See if I can remember all of that. Jeez.
Here, I'll help you out. First 5 are all in the head area. Eyes, cheeks, mouth, voice, head. There's 5 right there.
Okay. Eyes, cheeks. I'm trying to like trace this here so I can like remember it in my mind. Eyes, cheeks, mouth, voice, head. Okay.
That's 5
so
right
imagine
there.
Like a line. Yeah. Okay.
So now we're gonna do
shoulders, gesturing, carriage, stance, posture, move. Okay.
So basically, it goes shoulders and arms of the upper body, and then the carriage is the whole upper body.
Yeah.
And then the lower body.
Posture, stance is like the lower body, and then the gait's like the whole thing moving. Okay. I can imagine. I'm trying to imagine like the evolution of this. Okay. So the physiological cues manifest basically in everything a person does, and it can be broken down you want to helpful to break it down into like manageable areas that emanate specific physiological cues. And so we have 10 main areas for this. And so those are, the head in particular has a lot of them, because that's one of the main areas that we read cues and focus on while we read pictures. Like we take pictures of people's heads, and we use those mainly for our collaging and stuff. So there's the eye zone, cheeks zone, mouth zone, voice zone, head zone, and then the shoulder zone. That's the first not head cue, not head zone, not cue. It's not cue. Shoulder zone, the gesturing of the person, the way they kind of move their arms and stuff, and hands. The overall carriage quality, the stance and posture, and then the movement and the gait of the person.
Good. Next up, what is the face zone? How does it relate to physiological cues? How does it relate to biological evolution?
The zone refers to the combined areas, the eyes, cheeks, mouth. The face zone is the area that humans give off the most physiological cues from. Also, is the area that humans and most advanced mammalian life forms naturally focus their attention on most when trying to understand another person. That makes sense. Yeah. I remember you were thinking about that when we were you showed that like documentary or something, and there was like like areas of evolution where like that was suddenly more focused on.
I'll say suddenly, but
not suddenly, but like yeah, I don't remember what happened exactly, but like in primates where they, I don't know.
It does seem to be an area of focus for animals in general, and the more intelligent and complex the animals, the more that focus on the face and what it's doing.
Yeah, but I remember there was like something explaining in that documentary that there was like a real spurt of that in primates where like it became a really big deal. Especially.
Well, I think oh yeah, I think there may be something to that. My memory's bad, but I think there's probably more to this than when I'm remembering.
When I say suddenly, though, I mean
about
the like human literally baby. Suddenly.
But I do think there was something like, happened is that there was a getting to the point where the child could not mature very much within the womb because of how far we were going with it. So that for humans, there's a lot of learning outside, and so as a part of that, locking on to the faces of the tutors, the caregivers, is very, very important, more so than say other species, where more of their development's done in.
Right. Now I remember. Yeah, that's definitely what it was. I guess I remember that specifically. All right. It's the way how like other species mature more easily because they're less maturing to do. Just easier to kind of automate, I guess, via natural processes. So I didn't answer the question yet. Face zone, so eyes, cheeks, mouth. Okay. So the face zone are the of the 10 areas we discussed. 3 of those areas, the eyes, cheeks, and mouth, and it relates to physiological cues because it is the area that the humans get the most just pervasive kind of cues from. And I won't say maybe pervasive isn't the best word for it, but like they just really stand out.
Most pronounced.
Yeah, pronounced is probably a better word. Because I mean, like the body and gesturing are pervasive in the sense. I mean, they don't stop, but yeah, they're a little more implicit. You have to kind of really look for them. And it relates to biological evolution because basically humans and a lot of advanced mammalian life have to look at the face. Well, they generally use looking at the face of other members of those species when understanding them. in a way that lower mammalian life and non-mammalian life don't as much.
At least to our knowledge. All right, so next up, what is qualia? What are qualiophiles? What are qualiophobes? How does Podler theory fit into this discussion? And how does the Mojo phenomenon relate to qualia?
Blank slate theory. I was just thinking about that the other day. Anyway, qualia, I'll read it. Qualia is a term used in philosophy to describe various aspects of a given person's innate nature. Those who believe people have qualia, innate natures inherent to themselves, are called qualiophiles. Those who do not believe in human qualia, such as those that adhere to the blank slate theory, are called qualiophobes. Podler is most definitely a qualiophile theory, and moreover, it extends the definition for qualia as applied to humans to account for the mojo phenomenon discovery. In this context, Podler defines the term mojo as a particular qualia or innate nature that is observable in any given human individual. Okay.
Hey, Darlene.
How goes it?
It goes good. Is it sushi?
Yeah.
They weren't picking it up, so they're picking up the phone. So that means they're busy the normal
okay.
pick up. But I was gonna suggest to go there.
You would go out?
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
You down?
I can leave my house sometimes.
Hey, Mitchell.
Hey, Darlene.
Hey. Is it you guys on the hangout?
Yeah, we're doing a catch-up session for him.
Cool. Awesome.
We'll be ending in 14 minutes.
Cool. So we can finish this beginning section here.
Yeah, I think you do it.
Hurry. Not then. Maybe I'll have a beat or two. It's no big deal. So qualia. Okay, so qualia is a term, at least in one way, in philosophy, is used to describe aspects of a person's innate nature, and qualiophiles are I guess, people that would embrace that the use of qualia in that context, and qualiophobes would probably would not. So they would they have a kind of blank slate theory to go along with that, of people are born and then they don't have an innate nature really, and so we fit into that discussion because we're qualiphile theory, and we expand the definition of qualia to properly account for the discoveries we're bringing forward, in particular the mojo phenomenon. And the mojo phenomenon gives a particular qualia that an individual has, and it's been which applies to all humans in some form or another.
Good.
So, because there might be other aspects of qualia.
Indeed, still being researched. What are natural state physiological cues? How do they manifest?
So we're not doing these italics paragraphs?
We're doing what?
Just like italics paragraphs?
No, that means that they've already been done somewhere else.
Got it. They look familiar. Physiological cues that come from momentum power usage are natural state physiological cues. This means that whatever quality they give to a person's physiological cues, it will be a pervasive signal that influences a person's baseline look, as well as having an innate energetic comfortability. Okay, so the natural state physiological cues are the cues that come from a person's momentum power usage, and they manifest in the more kind of baseline signals that a person gives, and in signals that they give that have a kind of comfortability, just a natural comfortability to them.
Good. All right, counterpoint.
And then going along with that, the altered, I guess altered state, I guess, is pretty obvious, because it's just the counterpart to that. And on every point is that the altered state physiological cues are the ones that come from the modulation powers, and they would manifest in the signals that are more intermittent, and then the signals that require, particularly as they get more and more altered state, it's like degrees of it, more and more effort to do.
Good. All right, last of two here. How does the concept of yang yin relate to energy fields and to the priorities of the psyche?
The concept of yang yin is one that is very complex and is addressed in more depth in Pavlov theory as part of the spiritual way of understanding the motor phenomena and its implications. However, there is a key aspect that relates to human design and motor reading that should be mentioned for proper context, which is that each possible energetic dichotomy has both a yang and yin option to it. Some of the yang yin of human design includes directive is yang and adaptive is yin, objective is yang and subjective is yin, discernment is yang, perception is yin, literal is yang, interpretive is yin, logic base is yang, value base is yin, of the world do map powers, Vi is yang and Nai is yin, of the dynamics of power, Z is yang and She is yin, of the compass bearing powers, Zai is yang, Shai is yin, and of the stimulus register powers, V is yang, Ni is yin. Okay. Okay. So the concept of yang yin relates to the motor phenomenon in general because it's basically a part of a spiritual way of understanding it, which is explored in more depth in other aspects of Pavlov theory. And as a part of that, basically each sort of energetic dichotomy you can make is going to have a yang side and a yin side relative to one another. And that's so there's so for the energy fields, for example, directive is yang and adaptive is yin, objective is yang, subjective is yin, discernment is yang, perception is yin, and discernment lead is yang and perception lead is yin in a sense too, but I guess it's kind of both true. That's why. Logic-based energy field is yang to values-based, and then literal is yang to the interpretive, which is yin. And The other one is for the priorities. So within the priorities, in the worldview priority, Vi is yang and Nai is yin, because Vi is literal. Which actually kind of goes along really with the energy fields. Because the powers and the priorities basically have the same stuff, except for one energy field at the end. Basically, if they're perception power, they're going to be literal or interpretive. If they're discernment, they're going to be logic-based, values-based. But all the other stuff will be the same if they're in the same priority. So that's kind of what that falls from. And then for the pilot powers, Z is yang to the yin of Xi. Zai is yang to Jia yin. And for the towers, and then for the stimulus, V is yang to the yin of Ni.
Good. All right, one more. I think you can do it. Damn. What are the physiological cues of the eyes mainly associated with? How does this relate to baseline eye qualia?
It's funny we didn't do this one because I did the next one. The eyes give off physiological cues mainly associated with perception powers. A person's baseline eye quality will come from whichever momentum perception power they have. Okay, so physiological cues of the eyes are mainly associated with the perception powers, and this relates to the baseline eye qualia, because the baseline eye qualia is determined by primarily the momentum perception power that a person has, and all the kind of variations on that. So, like, they're interpretive, they'll have the syncopated eyes in either interpretive or literal form, blah blah. And then even where it is. So, like, it's like first, then the eyes will stand out more and have that search. Otherwise, they'll be a little less pervasive, but still have that baseline signal. So, like a Jin eye, have the syncopated interpretive eyes, but it's a different signal than like Naiji.
Good. Yeah, got it. So that catches you up to that first section. What's that?
Yeah, well, nothing. We're good.
Cool. I'm going to stop the broadcast here, but that catches